The courtroom was thick with tension, the kind that made the air feel heavy, like walking through a fog of unspoken truths and forgotten pain. Everyone's eyes were on the little girl sitting quietly at the front, her tiny legs swinging nervously beneath the wooden bench. 8-year-old Lily Carson clutched a worn-out stuffed rabbit in one hand, and in the other, she held the leash of her golden retriever, Max. Her long brown hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, and her eyes, too wide, too knowing for someone her age, shifted nervously around the courtroom, searching for something familiar in a sea of strangers. Max sat obediently by her side, his golden coat shimmering in the morning light that filtered through the tall courtroom windows. No one noticed how his ears twitched with every sound, how his eyes remained locked on Lily with a kind of loyalty no human could ever replicate. He wasn't just her pet. He was her protector, her friend, and today, her only voice. The judge, an older man named Harold Bennett, adjusted his glasses and tapped his gavel once. Court is now in session. This hearing will determine the guardianship of Lily Carson, following the tragic death of her parents in a car accident 3 months ago. The gallery was silent, save for a few reporters scribbling notes and the occasional murmur of curious onlookers. Across the aisle sat a sharply dressed couple, Lily's aunt and uncle, Cheryl and Richard Blake, who hadn't so much as visited her once in the hospital following the accident. Their polished smiles didn't reach their eyes, and their concern seemed rehearsed. They were here for the estate, not the girl. Ms. Thompson, the judge turned toward Lily's social worker, has the child been evaluated for her ability to testify? Ms. Thompson, a kind-faced woman in her 40s, nodded. Your Honor, Lily is emotionally fragile. She hasn't spoken a word since the accident. However, we've made special arrangements for her comfort during the proceedings. Max, her therapy dog, is with her. Judge Bennett's gaze softened as he looked at the dog seated proudly beside the girl. Understood. Proceed. The lawyer representing the Blakes stood and began outlining their ideal environment, the private school they'd enrolled Lily in without asking her, the extracurriculars they'd chosen, the therapist they'd booked, all carefully selected to make their case look perfect. But no one addressed the silent fear in Lily's eyes or the way her small body stiffened every time Richard Blake looked her way. When it came time for Lily to speak, the judge leaned forward kindly. Lily, sweetheart, do you feel safe telling us who you want to live with? She didn't move. The silence in the room was palpable, aching. Ms. Thompson knelt beside her. Remember what we practiced, honey. If you feel scared or unsure, Max is here for you. Lily blinked slowly. Then, almost imperceptibly, she shifted her fingers and gave a subtle hand signal. One they'd practiced in private. A signal no one else in the courtroom would understand. But Max did. Instantly, Max stood up and walked forward, stopping right in front of the judge. He sat down, wagged his tail once, and then gently placed one paw on the judge's bench. The room gasped. A bailiff moved forward, but the judge held up his hand. Wait, Judge Bennett said, eyes narrowing in surprise. What's going on? Lily stood slowly, her knees wobbling slightly. She took a deep breath and then walked to the center of the courtroom, stopping beside Max. Her hand trembled as she reached into the small pouch around the dog's collar and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Judge Bennett took it gently, unfolding it. His eyes scanned the page. Then he looked up, his voice suddenly lower, more careful. My name is Lily Carson. I'm 8 years old. I haven't spoken since my mom and dad died because I'm scared. Scared of going with people who smile with their mouths but not their hearts. My dog Max helps me feel brave. I trained him with my mom to understand my signs. He's the only one who really knows me now. I want to live with Ms. Dawson. She's not rich. But she holds my hand when I have nightmares. She sings my mom's favorite lullaby and smells like cinnamon and sunflowers. She's kind. Please let me stay with her. The room fell utterly silent. Ms. Dawson, a retired elementary school teacher and Lily's temporary foster guardian, sat in the back, a hand over her heart and tears streaming down her face. The judge leaned back slowly. "Ms. Thompson, why wasn't Ms. Dawson considered in the initial guardianship proposal?" "She was," Ms. Thompson said softly, "but the Blakes are biological relatives and have more financial means. Ms. Dawson is a widow on a teacher's pension. But she's been Lily's safe place since she left the hospital." The Blakes' lawyer objected, citing the lack of legal precedent for a dog delivering testimony. But the judge waved him off. "I've seen many things in this courtroom, but never a child so brave that she trained her dog to speak for her when fear took her voice." He turned to Lily. "Thank you, young lady. You've said more with this note than most adults manage with 100 words." He paused for a long moment. "I hereby deny the guardianship petition of Cheryl and Richard Blake and grant full custody of Lily Carson to Eleanor Dawson, pending standard follow-up by Child Services." The courtroom burst into murmurs, but all Lily could do was kneel down and hug Max as tight as she could, burying her face in his fur. The dog licked her cheek gently, tail wagging like he knew everything was going to be okay now. As the judge stood to leave, he walked past Lily and Max, pausing for just a moment to place a warm hand on her small shoulder. "You reminded all of us today," he said, "that the heart knows what's right, even when the words are too scared to come out." Weeks passed. Lily moved in with Ms. Dawson officially, and though she still didn't speak often, she began humming again. Smiling. Laughing, even. The nightmares came less often, and when they did, Ms. Dawson would rub her back gently until she fell asleep again, Max always curled up by her side. One bright spring afternoon, Lily spoke for the first time since the courtroom. She and Ms. Dawson were in the backyard, planting sunflowers. Max was chasing butterflies in the garden. "Do you think Mommy sees us?" Lily asked suddenly, her voice a whisper of sunlight. Ms. Dawson looked up slowly, tears immediately welling in her eyes. "I think she sees everything, sweetheart. And she's very proud of you." Lily smiled, a soft, blooming smile that made the flowers around them seem to bow in respect. She never spoke of the Blakes again, and no one asked her to. Some wounds are best left to heal quietly, beneath layers of love and patience. But what Lily did that day in the courtroom sparked something far bigger. The story made headlines: "Silent Girl Gives Signal to Dog, Stuns Courtroom, Wins Right to Live with the Woman Who Loved Her Most." It inspired new legislation across the country for better consideration of emotional trauma in child custody hearings. Therapy dogs began to appear more frequently in courtrooms. Judges began asking different questions, not just who has money, but who has love. And somewhere in that vast, shifting world, one little girl and her golden dog became a quiet, lasting reminder. That sometimes, the smallest voices hold the most powerful truths. And when love leads the way, even in a courtroom, miracles follow.